Okay, I want to introduce, but I don't need to introduce him at all. I'm sure everybody knows Andrew Kerstetter, who's going to be presenting our program tonight. One of our favorite topics sometimes is seeing the old postcards that lots of times, a lot of people haven't ever seen before. So we have a nice selection tonight. And it's called Cards Before Hallmark, because the Hallmark cards weren't back then in the early 1900s. Postcards were what they sent. There were birthday postcards, there were different holiday postcards, so they functioned as our, quote, Hallmark cards today. But without further ado, I'll let Andrew take over. Thank you.
Here, I'm going to give this to you so I'll actually drink your water. We'll switch. That would be really easy to do.
Early to bed tonight.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to take you on a short tour tonight of some of the postcards from the Historical Society's collection. Some you may have seen before, and I'm sure there's going to be quite a few that nobody has seen before. This is just a generic shot of that would have been sent out. That was just greetings from Emaus, PA. That location doesn't exactly exist anywhere, and they just put an old car in there. That probably dates from, I'm guessing, 1920-ish. Does anybody know where this one is?
Yeah, it's where the Borough Hall is.
Yes, that is the original Borough Hall, which at that time housed Borough Hall, the Emaus Fire Department. It had the bar room, it had the lockup, and the Emaus Police Department all on the same property. Go back, Mike. This is 4th and Jubilee. Right here is one of the concrete banisters from the 4th Street Railroad Bridge.
And the trolley tracks are on it too.
Yeah, and the trolley tracks run right here. This house here, you may remember, probably in the 1940s or 50s or 60s era, was turned into an annex to Town Hall and was known as the Becker Building. Harvey Becker, the Emaus High School teacher, grew up here, and right next door in between the two houses and in the rear of that property, he ran a tombstone engraving business. That house was then later torn down. It's now the parking lot for Town Hall. We believe Town Hall here is either decorated probably for the armistice in 1919, judging by the cars that are parked there. Then this is the new Borough Hall that replaced the old Town Hall at the same location that was built in 1938. And here the Becker home is still standing. That's the new Emaus Public Library as it was built in the mid-60s. Emaus Waterworks at Klein's Lane, how it looked. And here you notice a curiosity. Emaus did not change the wording on the building right away because this postcard has 2 M's and they still have the 1 M spelling on the building. So the postcard had to be made after 1938, but I don't know when they updated the wording on the building. That building looks very much the same today as it did then, except for maybe some of the landscaping. We don't know the name of this gentleman, but this is the very first mailman in Emaus with his mail truck. I suspect it took him a lot longer to deliver the mail than it does now. And I do not know where this was taken, unfortunately. That's a card of the post office when it was in the bank building on the Triangle. I think it would have moved out of there sometime in the 50s. This is the Memorial Triangle, how it looked in the late 1920s when it was laid out. Here would be your house up here, Nick.
There it is.
And as you'll notice, here's the monument that's in the middle of the Memorial Triangle. That is in honor of the Civil War, Spanish-American War, and World War I veterans. That was donated to the town by Dr. Wickard in 1930. And you'll also notice that there are cannons on each corner at that time.
Yeah.
The information we have says that those were scrapped during a World War II scrap drive. So they were there till at least sometime in the 1940s. This is a photograph of the triangle on January 29th, 1925. It's written on the back of the original postcard that this was taken the first night that they turned the electric lights on the triangle on. You can't see a whole lot, and it definitely had snowed. You can see sort of see the trolley tracks running right here, and this is the bank building in the distance. This is a relatively new donation. This postcard was donated to us within the last 6 months. And it's nice that it's dated. Does anybody know what you're looking at here?
Yeah, that was the fountain.
This was the original fountain, the first fountain that was on the triangle, that was dedicated to the 7 World War I soldiers from Emaus that were killed in the First World War. And go back, Mike. It was there was a plaque right here that had the names of those 7 men on. This would have been dedicated and put in about 1924, because the hotel on the triangle was torn down in 1923, and then the triangle was redone in 1924. This building here is the Weaver building, which later held the Emaus Public Library. And more well known in our times, the Elephant's Trunk was in there. And you can see next door, they're beginning to demolish the Palace Theater, which was the very first Nickelodeon theater here in town. They had already torn the facade off the front of the building.
Yeah.
This is another view of the fountain some years later, once the triangle was landscaped more and more beautified. And here you can see now they've attached the plaque in memory of the World War I soldiers to the actual top of the fountain along the ledge. And this fountain actually had electric lights. You can sort of see them here. Does anybody know where you can see where you're looking at here? But right here you can see the columns on the front of the Emaus Historical Society building. So that'll give you an idea of where you are in this picture. And oddly enough, next door where there was a gas station, they actually had a gas pump out on the curb.
Yeah.
This building here was later torn down. It's now the parking lot where Wentz Hardware had been. So the Wentz Hardware building would be right here behind these trees.
Yeah.
And you can see, off in the distance, you can see the bank building at the upper head of the triangle. And here you can see the trolley tracks again.
And there was a passing siding right there in the middle.
Going down Main Street. Right here?
No,
here.
Right near where Wentz Hardware was.
Okay.
That was where the passing siding was, the Emaus siding for the trolley.
And there was, between the gas, it's hard to imagine, but between the gas station, which was right about here, and the Historical Society building, there was actually another house in between there that would have sort of sat where our driveway is.
Oh, wow.
That house was later torn down, and that's that property, the front half went to the Hendricks gas station property, and the back half now belongs as part of our property.
Those are still hitching posts, right?
Yes, those are still hitching posts. Here you're looking at South 4th at Main. This is the rear of the Eagle Hotel. You have the Weaver building here where the library was in the Elephant's Trunk, and this is the front. This is the front of the Palace Theater that was being torn down in that card of the fountain. And here you can see the trolley tracks again running down Main Street. Here's where they took the turn and went over the 4th Street Bridge up to Broad. This, I think, probably was around 1910 or so. Can anybody guess where this is? I didn't think so. Where these two buildings stand is now where Bus Paints is.
Oh.
This was Mrs. Kemmerer's home and store, and this was the original St. Margaret's Episcopal Church.
I was going to say, there's a
Yeah.
sometimes. Wow.
So this would essentially be the parking lot in front of Bus Paint, this area, and the alley's not here yet, but that's where this house once stood. This is 3rd and Main. Right here is the stone wall. This would be Sean's funeral home right on the corner. This is the Central Hotel, which is now the Thai restaurant.
Yeah.
Here you have Armetta's on this corner. And you're looking down towards the triangle. This is the bank building right here. Judging from the cars in this photo, I would guess 1940s.
Yeah, it's a 38 Pontiac.
Late 1930s, early 1940s.
Yeah. Trolley tracks are rolling.
But look at how nice this building looked at that time.
Still says Emaus.
Yeah, so it would be before, you're right, it would be before 1938 because it still does say Emaus. So, but it could have been right about the time they were changing the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a 38.
Right?
That's a
And
38
this
Pontiac.
building right in here would be Rockel's store,
Oh.
right here next to the hotel. And then this is Temperance Hall, which later was Dr. Martin's home and office. Anybody know where this is?
Yeah, it says north.
Right on the other side of this factory building would be Jefferson School, the old Jefferson School.
Remember that factory?
This factory was probably torn down in the mid-1990s.
Yep.
And over here you have the delivery truck for Gruber's flower shop, and you can see the greenhouses back here. That would have been Carlton Gruber's parents, who I believe Carlton and Betty belonged here, correct? So you're looking down towards this Fifth Street would be off in the distance there. Here you're looking at 3rd Street, looking towards St. John's Reformed Church would be down in here, the Memorial Triangle. And there's your house.
You know the year, Andrew?
This is probably I'm guessing 1920-ish, because the church is not here yet.
Right.
And the church was built in 1923.
What year was your house built?
1918.
So it's between 1900 and 1918, roughly. That is neat.
Christmas cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
That's amazing.
And here you're looking down 3rd Street. Main Street would be off into the distance here. And this would be the roof of Deb and Dan Hoffman's house on the corner. Anybody know where this is?
Good.
Yes.
This is on Ridge Street,
Right up from Kerstetter.
right behind where these guys are would be George's greenhouse. Off to the back of the picture, off to the left side of the picture. Here you have the Frederick Silk Mill
Yes.
at the corner, and beyond that down here would be the Moravian Cemetery.
Yeah.
They must have been constructing sidewalks and roadways here. This is J.B. McElroy and his crew, and he was actually a cement contractor. Dick Farmer, you're here, right?
Yeah.
This is where Zona grew up, right?
That's true.
That's what I thought.
The Cope's house. It had a barnyard in the back.
If you go and look at this house today, you can still see some of these features here.
Yeah.
I think some of these steps are still there.
Yeah, but they coated the whole building in stucco.
Yeah, you don't see the brick anymore. This is probably, I would say, somewhere between 1900 and 1910, in that era. This is looking up South 4th Street, so you can see the trolley tracks here again, going up to Broad, where they then took a right onto Broad Street and went down that way. That's That's the original town hall that was built in 1902. And here you can see the sidewalk coming off of the 4th Street Bridge over the railroad crossing.
That's the old bridge.
Yeah, that was the old bridge. And this is Jubilee Street.
I never saw pictures of that. It's
There's no, the theater would be right in here, but that was not built yet when this was taken. Theater was built in the early 20s. And you can see, though, up some of these side streets, just how many trees there were at that time that lined a lot of the streets. And the streets were not paved.
That's a good snow.
So this is 1920, and this is near 4th and Broad.
Well, it's actually,
Or is this 5th and Broad?
it's actually at Broad and Turkey only.
This is the a plow on the.
Fifth Street's right.
They're plowing the trolley line.
That was car 520.
That was a big snowstorm.
Wow. Jeez.
And that's another shot of the same snowstorm with them with plowing the trolley line in the same general area as the other picture. This is the degree team of the von Steuben Chamber of the Order of Knights of Pythias, which was one of the many lodges here in Emaus, and that's how they dressed. He scares me a little bit. He looks like some kind of wizard. This was taken on the 3rd floor at the bank building. They had a lodge hall on the 3rd floor. This is what the original Owls looked like on Main Street when it was first built. It was a very attractive building in the beginning. And go back. The Owls was opened in 1910. So it would have been somewhere probably in that first decade. Next door here would be present-day David's Electric. And I think if you look at this picture too, you don't go up these steps outside anymore. They lowered the doorway at some point in time. Now you go up the steps when you go inside. And they actually had owls in the concrete at the top. This is the Owls degree team. Basically, the degree team was their marching team. This was taken in back of the Owls building, and many of them are dressed as owls. The only you can advance. This is a postcard that was sent out inviting somebody and their lady friend or their wife to a ladies' night at the Owls in 1911. And it had their logo on. This is Bidewee Park, which was basically at the top of South Mountain, just in the woods, sort of beyond the shelter house and the South 4th Street ball field, a little bit above that. They had a fishing pond, a camping grounds, a pavilion. There were people that I guess used to sleep there in tents during the summer. When it was too hot in town, they would retreat to the Bidewee Park. And these are the owners standing here, Obadiah and Mariah Esterly. I've never been back there, but they tell me that if you go back into the woods, you can still see the concrete foundation of the fish pond. Apparently it's still there. This is the roller rink and the boat landing and the bridge at Indian Creek Park.
Where is that?
Basically, if you go Cedar Crest Boulevard and you go down that really steep hill,
Yeah, down
it would be off to your left. The dam is still down there.
Yep.
There's nothing left of Indian Creek Park anymore, but apparently it was quite the place to go at one time. I know a lot of people used to also ice skate there on the dam.
Yeah, hockey there.
We have some photographs of ice skating down there.
Yeah. There's a little dam there.
This is the Emaus Fire Department fire truck parked at the corner of North 6th and Chestnut Streets. Right there would be your house, Ruth.
I know. Of course, it's not there anymore.
This is Collector's Appliances right here now, if you're thinking about where you're looking at. And this is the laundromat that's on the corner. It's been several grocery stores and over the years. In this building in the 1930s was also the original location of Cromer's 5 and 10. That's where they started before they moved on to up to the Triangle. This is the Emaus Constables. They're standing in front of Dr. Lichtenwallner's house at South 4th and Golden Street. This man here is Harrison Stephen, Emily Folland and Beanie's grandfather. But it doesn't look, this one I don't think you'd want to mess with. And that picture would have been taken before 1909 because we had constables that sort of kept peace in the town before the fire department was, the police department was started, and the police department was formed in 1909. This is a yoke of oxen passing through Emaus at South 4th and Broad Streets. Right here at the corner, this is the bookstore at the corner of 4th and Broad. Doney's Market would have been right in here, Doney's store, if you're thinking about where you're at. Down here would be Town Hall. This little building back here was Kluhl's photography studio. It's now the little church at the corner of 4th and Broad where Raymond James is located, the financial. I guess they're getting ready to turn onto Broad Street would be my guess. Kluhl took this picture, so he probably rushed right out of his building to photograph this because he was right there. And it's October 9th, 1915. This is the Perkiomen Railroad Station at South 5th Street, on South 5th Street. And this is the Reading Railroad Station on Jubilee. A really good picture of it. There are not many that are this good.
Was the Perkiomen, could you get, was that a passenger line or could you get?
You could ride the Perkiomen Railroad. It was a passenger line, but the information we have says that there was no ticket agent at the Perkiomen station. You had to buy your tickets for the Perkiomen station and the Reading Railroad station here. I think the Perkiomen station, basically you just waited there for the train to come and you could get on it, but they didn't do much else up there. This is a view of the pipe yard at the Donaldson Iron Company, which was roughly between South 7th and South 10th at Broad and Pennsylvania Avenue. We have, in our collection, we have a hitching post that was actually cast at the Donaldson Iron Company. Emaus at one time had its own gas works, for those that did not know that. This was located roughly, you know where the CVS is now at South 7th Street? Yeah. Just behind there was where the gas works was located. This is one of the many Emaus baseball teams, an early one. Fortunately, don't know where this was taken, and none of the people on it are identified other than that it's an Emaus team. This is the very first Emaus High School football team in 1909. It lasted for one season and then disbanded. This photo is taken in front of the Palace Theater down on Main Street. And that man there, perhaps later on, he cut your hair. That's John Romig the barber. This is the Emaus Football Club in 1922. This is the Bus Peanut Shop basketball team. And this is Carl Bus. In his younger years, he later founded Bus Paints. At one time before he was in the paint business, he ran a little restaurant shop called the Peanut Shop on Chestnut Street, which was a hangout for high school aged kids at that time. This is the Emaus Moravian Church before the portico was put on the front. So the portico was added, what, 1927?
Yes. 26 to 27.
So
yes.
this picture would predate 1926.
Mm-hmm.
This building here is the Main Street Schoolhouse.
Mm-hmm.
That's the church. That's the chapel.
Mm-hmm.
Was this the parsonage at the time?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
This was the parsonage.
Mm-hmm.
And then here you can see the trolley tracks going down Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could read that sign, but you can't. Does anybody know where this is taken?
Yeah, probably on 3rd Street, Green.
Yeah, this is taken at the front of St. John's Union Church. Before the two churches built their new church buildings, this was the Union Church building. And these are the waitresses serving the community sauerkraut supper.
Wow.
And this is a picture of the Union Church at 3rd and Green. Many of you will remember later on this building became the Legion Hall after the church was no longer there anymore. And then it actually became a church again.
Hey, Andrew?
Yes.
If you look in the tower, you see that bell?
Yes.
The clapper that's up there on the table is the original clapper from that bell, and that bell is now in our tower.
Okay, did everybody hear that?
Yes.
And this is the new St. John's Reformed Church. There's your houses again.
I was going to say, there's
I told you it was going to appear several times tonight.
There's a skylight in there?
Yes, in the original church there was a skylight that was in there. And of course, this was before the Sunday school wing was added, so you can see what the original side of the church looked like. I believe they covered up the skylight 30 years or so ago during one of the renovations. When they put a new roof on, they took the skylight out because it was always leaking. And when the Reformed Church was built, since the Lutherans got the bell, the Reformed Church installed chimes. I know that was the history. This is the memorial triangle again. This is looking at the back of the Reformed Church, and this probably would have been just after the church was completed, and the memorial triangle was newly laid out. And this would have to be before 1930, because if you'll notice, the monument is not in the middle of the memorial triangle yet, and that was dedicated in 1930. Here you can also see, can you go back, Mike? You can also see sort of Central School would be down here, beyond those trees. And it also looks that 3rd Street was on more of a hill at that time. I think 3rd Street had been leveled out at some time.
Looks like they moved the cannon.
I think they did. Maybe when they put the monument on, they moved the cannons around. This is St. John's Lutheran shortly after it was completed. So this is where we are tonight. That's 5th and Chestnut. You notice the church sign was here at one time instead of over here, where it is now. So this is probably approximately 1924, 1925. Anybody recognize this one? This is the original St. Matthew's Evangelical Congregational Church at 5th and Ridge. And it was open from 1894 to 1927 when they built the present building that's there now. So the post office would be over on this corner. And then here's the new St. Matthew's that replaced the original building. So this would be approximately the late 20s. Although this is 2 M's here, so this actual card was taken after 1938. And this is the original St. Anne's Catholic Church at South 6th Street.
That's what they tore down.
You really went up a lot of steps to get into that church.
They did. Yeah.
And this was built, I think, 1930 and 31. So right here would be Wood Street at 6th, right at the side here. This is the Main Street schoolhouse with a school class in front of it. So the Moravian Church is just over here. This school ceased to be a school in about 1915. This is the only postcard that I've ever seen of Thaddeus Stevens School. We don't have an actual postcard of the building itself, but this is a school class at one of the front doors. Probably, it's pretty early days, and Thaddeus Stevens opened in the late 20s, so this is probably from that era. Nobody's identified, unfortunately. This is the school class at the Central School building. And they used a flag as a backdrop. The teacher here is a very young Alan Heller, who was later principal of Emaus High School when it was at Jefferson yet. This is a picture, this is the front of the Central School building. It was built in 1891 and torn down in 1975. This was on Ridge between 3rd and 4th, where the high rise is now.
It was originally the high school.
It was the first high school.
Yes.
Well, probably not actually the first, because the first graduating class in 1890 graduated from the Main Street School building.
Yes.
This would have been technically the second location that we had a high school, but the first one only had high school classes for 1 year, because then this opened in 1891. But at different times it was also an elementary school. This is the front, this is Jefferson School on North Street. And that was built in 1914.
Yeah. They tore this down.
This was torn down in 1998. So from 1914 to 1955, it served as the high school. But curiously enough, there are some photographs in the 1920s of elementary school classes here. So they may have actually had elementary school classes in the building with the high school for a period of time. This is Washington School just after it was completed in 1910. And this is on Broad between 3rd and 4th.
It's apartments now.
It's now an apartment house. This is Lincoln School as it looked when it was originally built. Lincoln, I think, opened in 1928, so this would be around that era. This is the Frederick Silk Mill at the corner of North Street, Keystone Avenue and Ridge. It's still there. If you look at the front of the building, you sort of can still see the outline of this original building.
Yeah.
I think later on, there was another structure just like this one built next to it. And this would be Ridge Street here. Down here a little further would be George's greenhouse. This is the engine room crew of the Keystone Silk Mill on Minor Street.
Seem happy.
This man here is J.W. Kidd, who later became one of the Burgesses in Emaus. And this is a Stansfield. His family owned the mill, or they ran it. That postcard actually came to us from a family in Texas. This is a Labor Day get-together party, picnic gathering, whatever you want to call it, at the Keystone Silk Mill. And this is Burgess Wickert, and they're playing Pin the Tail on the Donkey. So this is somewhere probably down around Minor Street, between South 2nd and Klein's Lane. Anybody recognize this?
Central Hotel.
This is the Central Hotel. This is the Thai restaurant now. And this was Rockel's store. This is written on the back of the original card that this is decorated for the armistice in 1919. Yes, and if you look, they do have Emaus spelled backwards here. The S is backwards. So this is 3rd Street here. The funeral home would be over here, and this is Main. And you can see all the hitching posts lined up here on Main Street.
Street lamp.
And look at the old street lamp.
Wow.
This, unfortunately, somebody gave this to us with a rusty paper clip on it. Bad idea.
I remember that as Marcel's.
Yes, at one time it was also Marcel's. And you can see here somebody wrote on the front of the card, Rockel's. And there's even hitching posts down 3rd Street here. If you look real closely, you can see.
Wasn't Armetta's at Rockel's at one point?
Mario's Pizza.
Mario's.
It was called Mario's Pizza.
But wasn't Armetta's across the street too?
I don't remember Armetta's ever there. Armetta's was also in the building behind where Buss Paints is. It started there. You can advance, Mike. This is one of my favorites. This is the Charles Goldman family. He was the superintendent of the Dairy Silk Mill, which was located at South 6th and Minor in what was later the Rodale Manufacturing Building. They are sitting in rocking chairs on the front porch of the Eagle Hotel on the Triangle. You don't get very many close-up pictures of the front porch. And of course, somebody had to mark them with X's above their heads, but... This was probably, let's say in the late World War I era, maybe very early 20s.
I put it at 1908.
Yeah, I think earlier.
You think earlier?
Yeah.
This is the front of the Eagle Hotel.
Wow. Look at how nice that was.
Anybody recognize where this is? This is the backyard of the Broad Street Hotel. And this is little Helen Jackensack feeding the ducks. Ann Locke's mother. So this is Broad Street out here, I believe. The Jack and Sack family at one time owned the Eagle Hotel before he went into before he started the bottling plant. This is Fenstermaker's Market on Broad Street, which would have been between 5th and 6th. It's about, if you know where Gabby's Market was, it would be across the street and about in the middle of the block. If you look at this building now, it doesn't look a whole lot like this, but you could probably figure out which building it is. It's still kind of a long building. And that's Mr. Fenstermaker on the front porch. This is Haberstump's blacksmith shop on Adrian Street, just across the street from God's Acre, in the alley.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is South 5th and Broad, so you can see the trolley tracks there. That was a little store. The hotel would be just over here on this corner. I love the delivery wagon.
What's in the wagon?
I don't know. I can't quite tell. This is the Weaver building that later on housed the Emaus Library and then later on the Elephant's Trunk in its earlier years. It was built in 1911. At that time there was a store in there called the Fetterman Syndicate. And you can see the Palace Theater here, part of it, next door.
Store in the corner wasn't built yet.
Nope. It's still an empty lot over here, I believe. This is the inside of Bussy's Peanut Shop. And that's Carl Buss behind the counter.
Where was that?
What would it be under? Would it be under, is it under the Chinese restaurant?
Yeah, or Richard's Market.
So where Richard's Market was, it would have been underneath Richard's Market.
Oh, the basement.
There was steps that you would have went down from the outside to go down into the basement.
What's that?
They say it's a dog groomer now.
No, there's no, this is on the triangle. It's all the way down.
And the Buss family tells me in the years that Carl had this, there was only one high school aged girl. He did not allow alcohol down there. That snuck alcohol in a paper bag, and she got banned from there for life. This is the delivery wagon for Zimmerman Brothers Bakery. This picture, I believe, is taken, I think this is Broad Street, and this is South 4th here. This again, I think, would be Kluhl's photography studio, which basically was a shack. Zimmerman Brothers Bakery was actually located at the corner of North 6th and Walnut. Sort of near Burion's grocery store, but across the street. It was they had a steam ovens in there, and in the early 1920s, the steam ovens blew up. And they had a tremendous fire there. That they said actually, when the steam ovens blew, it rained bricks down in the neighborhood. That it went through people's roofs and things. This is the Alamode restaurant. So here you're looking at, this is Main Street, and this is South 4th Street right here. You can see a little bit of the bridge here. This building still looks very much the same. This half and this half.
Where did your parents live on 2nd, 3rd?
They lived in the second.
And judging from this car, I would say World War I era, maybe into the early 20s. Where I showed you some of those other cars of the Weaver building would have been just down over here, a little bit. and the Eagle Hotel and the Triangle were just here. And the bank building is on this corner. Anybody guess what you're looking at here? It's a building that I'm sure most of you have been in.
Used to be a hardware store.
This is the Wentz Hardware building. At this time, at this period, it was Klein's paint store. It had a bakery to the rear. This sign says bakery. And right here, this building, which is now demolished, it was the drive-through for the bank. Now it's where they have the food trucks at Yergis, this area. Was Miller's hardware store. So you had the hardware stores were next to each other. And the Klein, the paint store was on this side, and the Klein family lived on this side. It was actually a double dwelling at that time. They lived on this side with 16 children. We have a photograph of Howard Klein and his wife at this front porch with all 16 children. So the Historical Society is sort of right across the street from that building at an angle. This is a spring millinery opening to Mrs. E.M. Niemeyer's millinery shop on Main Street in March of 1910. I guess this would have been sent out to customers. This one was never sent, but I believe that's what these were for. This is the bank building at South 4th Street. You can see the trolley tracks, and this is Railroad Street going down to the Mercantile. This was built in the early 1900s, between 1900 and 1905.
And that's the old bridge.
And in the basement of this building is still the original safe, which still has the Emaus National Bank logo on the front of it. And where I showed you that picture of the lodge, this was the lodge hall on the 3rd floor, where many of the lodges in town met at that time. Later on, this building also served as the phone company building after the bank moved across the street. And here you can see another one of those old street lights. This is the newer bank building then across on the other side of the triangle, which was actually built for the Security Trust Company. And then when the Security Trust Company went under, the Emaus National Bank took over the building in the 1930s. So it would have been during the Depression era.
Is that Wells Fargo?
Yeah, it was later on the Wells Fargo building. It had a beautiful window here at one time, which was later covered up at some point. If you do notice, though, in this picture, the clock is not here yet.
And is it a home there where the...
Yeah. Well, that was that home that I showed you in that other picture, where it was next to St. Margaret's Church. That's that house. And the alley is not in yet. And this is a picture of this is the original how it looked when it was constructed for the Security Trust Company. Anybody recognize where this is? This is the original log home of Andreas Gearing being demolished at 160 Main Street in 1922. And they built a new house in its place. This house is gone, and then this is the house that's right across the street, Keystone Avenue, from the Moravian Church. Allison Hudak lives there. It's a shame we do not have a picture of this before they started demolishing it so far. And there's a little girl standing here. At first I thought that was a hitching post, and then I realized it's actually a little girl standing there.
Hitching post with legs.
Yeah. So this is the Emaus Historical Society building And we believe that this picture postcard was taken from the roof of the Wentz Hardware building, or the Klein Paint Store building, because at the angle that this is taken at, it had to have been taken from one of the rooftops across the street. And judging from the car and the era, we guess this is probably just after the building was done being renovated. So about 1920-ish. Here's the house that was between the Historical Society and the gas station, and here you can see the side of the Exchange Hotel, which sat at the corner of 2nd and Main before the gas station was there. So our driveway for the Historical Society would be right here. Anybody guess where this is? This is the corner of Main Street and Keystone Avenue, how that house looked early on. A lot of this is closed in now that you can't, that doesn't take some of that form anymore. One of these little boys here is Ralph Yobst, the father of Donna and John Yobst. This home is located at the corner of Ridge and 4th. Central School would have been right over here. But a lot of this ornamental brickwork has been recovered with brick coating now, so you don't see all that anymore. But this was the home of Effie and Percy Ott, who owned Rockel's store after the Rockels no longer owned it. On this corner, across 4th Street, would have been Dr. Clerk's office. Was right across from that house. Anybody recognize this building? So this is how the building, this is Dr. Martin's building before it was renovated. Before it was made into Temperance Hall. This probably would have been early 1900s. And at this time, it was the home of Dr. Diller.
The carriage stepping stone in front of it.
Right here.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see how many of the homes had the fences at that time. Anybody know where this is? This is another picture that was recently donated that we never knew this existed before. This is taken during the 1909 Golden Jubilee, and this is an archway that was on South 2nd Street. Here's the railroad at South 2nd Street. Here's the cigar factory. The Exchange Hotel would be up here. The Anchorage building would be right in here in Wayne Feather Plumbing. And the Historical Society would be back over in here. But this is an archway that evidently was built for the Golden Jubilee as you went into town. And here's another one of the old street lamps. This was the concession stand that was on the triangle for the Diamond Jubilee in 1934. And they sold root beer.
5 cents.
This is the house that was built at 160 Main Street after they tore down Andreas Gearing's log home. That's what's there now.
Yeah.
It's owned now by Phil Siebert. And I think there's an architect in there. And this would be Allison Hudak's house here. So you can see by this time they also tore down that smaller house next to the log house. This is Harvey Yobst, who was a contractor in Emaus, and he's constructing homes somewhere on North 4th Street. I believe this is Harvey. This is, of course, the World War I Victory Arch that was over the triangle. This is actually a less common shot. If you'll notice, the wording was not painted on it yet.
Yeah.
This is the Eagle Hotel back here. And this is the bank building. This sign up here actually says drive slow. So I don't, maybe they had trouble with people speeding. And then this is the trolley tracks going up Main Street right here. And then here is a completed version of the arch after it was painted. And the archway was actually electrified. There was electric lighting up here. The archway was made of wood, and it eventually deteriorated and they removed it. It was never, I don't think, built to be permanent. It was put up for the homecoming of the World War I veterans.
I like the trees on top of it.
Yes, and it did actually have some landscaping on the top of it as well. You can advance, Mike. This is a shot of the World War I homecoming parade. This is Broad Street and this is South 4th here. You can advance, Mike. So this is Helen, Anthony, and Ernestine Jackensack. They are the children of Andrew Jackensack, who owned the Emaus bottling company. And this picture was taken as an advertisement. They're drinking his famous chocolate drink that he sold. And the bottling plant was located behind 390 Broad. So in the area of South 4th and Broad.
Well, that's right at 4th and Adrian.
Yeah. Anybody recognize him? That is Elwood Orr. You might have had him as your Latin teacher.
He taught Latin.
So I wanted to ask if anybody recognized him. It says down here, I blocked this part out, it says, yours truly, Elwood Orr. So he sent this to one of his students. And this is, you know who this is? Later on, she was known as Minnie Rhinesmith. So this is at this time she was Margaret Thomas, and this is her dressed for Halloween. In her Halloween costume, I think it's dated 1910.
Wow. Did that from her daughter?
Yeah.
That in their daughter's collection?
Yeah, that was one of the many things that came from her daughter's collection some years ago.
Yeah. Who is she?
She later married Carlton Rhinesmith.
Is she really related to you?
Yeah, she is.
She was your what?
Oh boy.
Great aunt?
I don't know.
You're related.
And this is Burgess E.A. Stansfield and his wife, Annie Gearing Stansfield. It's written on the back that this is his 1906 Ford. I don't know how correct that is because I don't know my cars. And this is taken on Minor Street between Klein's Lane and 2nd Street, just in the area where the Keystone Silk Mill was. He was the superintendent of the Keystone Silk Mill as well as being the Burgess of Emaus. So can anybody guess where this is? I put this in because I know a lot of you have been to this location, not when it looked like this. So in present day, this would be just about the site of Emaus Community Pool.
Wow.
This is early Liberts Creek,
Yeah.
way before the McClensicks even had it. At this time, it was the Marks Farm. This photo came from Elizabeth Gearing.
Okay. Yeah. Elizabeth Gearing.
So this is written on the back there that this is Billy and Slim Jim. After they went trout fishing at Furnace Dam.
Looks like they didn't catch anything.
So this is E.S. Miller. He was the very first man in Emaus to deliver milk and cream and eggs and dairy products. Do not know exactly where this was taken.
There were trolley tracks in the photo.
You want to go back for a minute, Mike? Yeah, I think there are. I think, is that trolley tracks, Doug?
I don't, it doesn't look like it, it's like some, just
Curving.
Marks. Because I don't see any overhead wire either.
Okay, you can go forward. So this is a train that has just left the train station on Jubilee Street and is headed towards Allentown, going under the 4th Street Bridge. To orient you about where you are, this building here was the VFW building at South 5th and Jubilee Street. How it looked at that time. It had a wraparound porch on the 2nd floor. At that time, it was the band hall or a hotel. Right here, this building is the back of Town Hall, the original Town Hall. That's a good view of the train station. Here you can see the old VFW building again, and of course another view of the Town Hall. Anybody know where this is? This is Lower Main Street. So this is the Main Street Schoolhouse down here. This would be the Moravian Church over here. This is Keystone Avenue right here. These houses here no longer exist. Over here you can see the porch of that Queen Anne house that's in that block of Main Street. Howard Klein, who later owned Klein's Paint Store, is driving the horse and buggy. And this is dated on the back 1916. And of course you can see the streets are not paved. And I believe that's the trolley tracks right there. So I stuck this picture in for one reason. This is my grandmother, Margaret Herzog, when she was a little girl. When I realized I was doing this program today would be her 100th birthday. So I stuck that in on purpose. And this was taken by Fred Kluel, who was at the corner of South 4th and Broad. She lived just a block down from there, near Washington School. So she was born 1923, so this is probably 1925, maybe. And this is just another generic card to end the program. I started with greetings from Emaus and ended with greetings from Emaus. So that's my presentation. Hopefully everybody enjoyed everything.